And we're live, I think, Brendan.
Yeah, we are, thankfully. A minute or two late, but hey, we were missing last week. Great to see you, Ollie. Haven't seen you because we did our little show planning via WhatsApp, a non-video call. So you're looking great. Great to see you.
Have you been smoking something?
No, not at all. People might have been wondering, our millions of viewers from Australia to Azerbaijan and everywhere else in between, where we were last week. Well, I'm still in mourning somewhat, Ollie, since the loss of my panaderia, Vicky, and I just still haven't found an appropriate panaderia to call my office in the meantime. I've had a few kind of substandard substitutes, but we're working on it. We're working on it. Once they get the coffee right, then everything else can take off from there. But last week I had to get away from Bogota to escape it all. So I was actually in the pastoral bliss of Boyacá in Genisano. So it was quite interesting. Still have the flesh wounds as well on my arm here, so you can make them out from blood-thirsty insects while I was picking aracachas in a finca just above Genisano. So quite interesting. Nice to get down and get the hands dirty and do some work. Honest day's work, as we call it, working with the hands and some physical work for a change. My father would be proud. And then this week I was carrying bags of sand and 50 kg bags of cement up 5 flights of stairs. So I've been getting down and dirty, Ollie, over the last few days, but ready to do some softer work in terms of talking rubbish on this show, as I tend to do. How have you been since our last show 2 weeks ago, which, in fairness, I didn't really feel I could contribute because I had severe internet problems here. So I was kind of like a voyeur on that show in many ways. But how have you been?
Yeah, pretty good. Just sort of trundling along with life, interesting developments at work and what have you. So, yeah, we'll see.
Have you got your rain gear ready?
Yeah, not as well as I would like, I have to say. It's going to be a heavy rainy season this year, I think. We've cleaned all the pigeon crap off the roof, which is a major bonus.
Is it starting in earnest, I wonder? Because I don't know. I think it's been a kind of spot floods throughout Bogotá this last week. But like I've been sunning myself on my terrace in the mornings, and in the odd time you get a bit of rain. But today, the rain came with a vengeance. It didn't rain up this side of the city yesterday, but I'm kind of going, oh no, like are we going to get rain bang on from the 1st of October right through until God knows when in December?
It is normally exactly the 1st, isn't it? So let's see what happens tomorrow.
Yeah, might just prompt me to go away again for another few weeks. I'll bring my laptop. Well, I'll make sure I'm in a good place with decent internet connection. We can continue with the show. Well, let's get on with tonight's show, Ollie. And to close this month, it is the 30th of September, of amor, amistad, love and friendship. On tonight's Bogotá Nights, which is, guys, Colombia's only live and interactive English language chat show, we're going to talk about what got us even hooked on this country. Foreigners come here and stay for many reasons: adventure, nature, a fresh start, retirement, romance, work, you name it. What brought you here initially? And are those initial pull factors still at play? Those watching from afar, and we do have people watching in Auckland and in Alberta in Canada, from all over. Those who used to live here, why did you leave? Would you come back? Send us your messages on all this right now. We do love to get your thoughts in real time. It's why we do this show live. If you do happen to be watching this recorded, though, you can still get involved by commenting on where you're viewing or via tweet. The handle being at Bogotá Post, everybody's favorite English language newspaper in Bogotá, in Colombia indeed, with the hashtag Bogotá Nights, the name of this show. Our Why Colombia, the question everybody gets asked, chat is to come. But before that, we'll do a whiz around some of the big news stories of late, including what might be our last James Rodriguez watch, his latest club move. he'll be playing for Bogotá Rovers here soon enough. If he's good enough, he probably wouldn't make the first team. But first though, Ali, there's a story on the Bogotá Post website about the UK, your homeland, refusing to recognise vaccines administered to people here in Colombia. Now, I would have thought a Moderna or etc., whatever vaccine is a Moderna vaccine wherever it's been received. So can you enlighten us as to what exactly is going on here?
Yeah, very good. The United Kingdom government, well, English COVID restriction rules have decided rather arbitrarily not to recognise vaccines from pretty much anywhere outside Europe, mainland Europe, that is, the EU, the United States, I think Canada, New Zealand, and it's a really limited, and of course the United Kingdom. Now, what they're saying is we're not sure about medical procedures in other countries, and there are, quote unquote, other considerations. Now, quite what other considerations actually means is somewhat open to interpretation. Some people are reading it as the UK is xenophobic and doesn't trust certain countries. There's probably a lot of fairness in that. And it's a vote winner, let's be honest. Other people are mentioning that, there have been a number of reports, especially from Spain, of people turning up with falsified documents from Colombia, and I imagine from other countries as well, saying they've had a vaccine and it's later been found out to be false, and or that they've got a negative COVID test, which later turns out to be false. It's also worth pointing out, Brendan, this isn't about Colombia. This is just about everywhere that's not a certain cabal of rich countries.
Yeah, in other words, you can't trust it. Now, we did talk a few weeks ago. Didn't Spain have issues with some Colombians arriving there that they found out that they were using, I don't know, was that falsified tests or vaccine, I think, certification as well. Now, I don't know, well, we probably all know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who has paid a doctor or whatever to get a cert. Now, which, as somebody pointed out to me today, there are some people so vehemently against the vaccine, but they need it to enter certain countries or to work or whatever, that they would prefer to pay, I heard, a sum of €150 to a certain doctor in a certain country where Pope John Paul II was born in Europe, Poland, and to get into Canada. So he'd prefer to pay rather than get the vaccine for free. Anyway, here am I talking unvaccinated. But yeah, so like we all know, so this is probably going to happen. But it is interesting, like as I said in the introduction, like these are internationally recognized vaccines, but it's like the UK, and it's specifically the UK now, because in fairness, Ireland.
Oh yeah, the question. Yeah. The question is not over the vaccines, it's about the place that they're being administered. Let's be very clear about that. And in fact, in the case of the United States, not only that's only being recognized if the person that it was given to is a US citizen. So then they're cracking down even on things like vaccine tourism. So this is all quite, I mean, what it amounts to is a rich and privileged country saying, well, we don't trust other countries. And this is potentially quite problematic. At the moment, it's irritating. And I'll be honest, as a British resident, as a Colombian resident and British citizen, it's particularly irritating for me because it means that the UK now obviously doesn't recognise my vaccine, making it largely worthless. Now, what I think we need to think about here, Brendan, is where do we go next? if we're going to be talking about digital vaccine passports coming in and being a reality, what's going to happen with countries outside a certain cabal of, rich, privileged countries? How are other people going to be able to get in and, once in, get around? We've seen France, we've seen the Netherlands bring in sort of digital passporting systems. I'd imagine it will come in fairly quickly in places like the UK. They're talking about it, I think, in Ireland. You'll probably know more about that than me. If this is the future, it's going to be very worrying, because this isn't happening in Colombia anytime soon. You could maybe manage it in Bogotá, but there's no way that a scheme like that could possibly work in various places around Colombia.
Yeah, okay. I've my neighbour here offering me some tea and coffee. Estoy en un programa en vivo. Anyway, this is what happens when I have the door opened and recording. So, yeah, Ollie, about Ireland, I'm not 100% sure, because last week they just announced that anyone can enter the country regardless of your vaccination status, and if you're unvaccinated, you'd have to quarantine for I think 14 days, and maybe then test and release and all that kind of stuff.
It's worth pointing out at this point another thing that affects Colombia as a sort of double measure is that not only that, Brendan, but Colombia's staying on the UK red list. Meaning that, if I had to rush home now, my two options are straight to the UK and 14 days, 10 to 14 days in hotel quarantine. That's setting me back 2,000 UK pounds to stay in somewhere that's not my home. Or 10 days in somewhere like the US on the amber list, or Spain or whatever, followed by another 10 days at home in England. So there's a kind of anywhere between 10 and 20 day delay before I can do very much if I want to go back home at the moment. So it's particularly annoying for any Colombians going to the UK, any UK residents here who have got their vaccine here in Colombia. It's an absolute nightmare.
Yeah, well, look, right now I don't want to go into all the ins and outs in terms of, should one get a vaccine or not, and I've written about this on my blog. People can search the vaccine vexers wrong way Corrigan and you'll know where I'm coming from on this. But there's just been so many contradictory measures. Like, as things stand, for example, I could fly to the United States here on my Irish passport, but leaving from Colombia and enter. I think all I need to have is a negative PCR test. Whereas if I was in Ireland, and Ireland, I think, now tops the list of countries in terms of coping with COVID. We're top of the list at the moment. I think it's the Financial Times or The Economist who does that. You still can't enter the United States. And then from November, of course, the US are changing that anyone vaccinated, the doors are fully open. Anyone unvaccinated, stay away. Well, I won't be going to the United States anytime soon in any case. Sorry, Aunt Anne and Aunt Mary in Long Island. But so there's just so many contradictory things in all of this. My tiny little bit of hope is that in 6 months to a year, once we've got on top of most of this, hopefully, that a lot of these things, governments will realise, and health officials, a bit like what might be happening in Ireland, considering they've relaxed their quarantine rules, that, well, we've just got to get on with this and slightly return to what it was pre-COVID. That might be me being overly optimistic for a change.
Yeah, it's very hard to tell. Very hard to tell.
Yeah, sorry, I just have to show this now because I was a little bit distracted there. But you see, to get good internet connection, I have to move my table closer to the door here. And I don't have one of those Ethernet cables. But my neighbour came up and gave me, it's a bit of an arepa and hot milk. There you go. So I was like, okay, thanks for that. And he had no idea. I was trying to explain that I'm doing a live show. But anyway, the lovely neighbours. It's why we stay in Colombia, Ollie, and more on that to come in our main topic, what has brought us to this country. I'm going to leave this here in some nice little spot over there, thanks to my neighbour, who I still don't know his name, actually, to be honest. Anyway, Ollie, we'll move on from vaccines, although one important thing I just saw breaking news, from tomorrow, 1st of October, you're going to get the third boost is going to be available for over 70s in this country. So any over 70s happening to, if you know of any over 70s tuning in, from tomorrow they'll be able to get their third dose. Now, I must say too, as I said, I was away for a few days, and I hadn't been in Centro Comercial Santa Fe maybe for about 10 days, and there's a vaccine centre there. I was in it today, and like the queues, the lines for the vaccine were nothing compared to what they had been like 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Oh yeah, I mean we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, but very much Colombia's coming up to the point of having more vaccines than arms. You know, that basically, but there hasn't been a huge anti-vax movement sort of visibly in the way that we've maybe seen in Australia and the United States, you know, partly in the United Kingdom, etc. But there's been a lot of people just not getting the vaccine. And in that respect, I don't think we'll see the number of vaccinated people go up dramatically now, apart from certainly not in terms of adults. I mean, they're going to start slinging it into children, I suspect, just to get the numbers up, frankly.
Yeah, like I've noticed in the barrio, guys a little bit older than me have gone and got, and a few younger than me, late 20s, but a lot of male, like men in their early 20s to late 20s, just don't, like, I don't know, couldn't be bothered, don't care. That's kind of the attitude I've seen there. And as I said, people can read my blog to know where I'm coming from on all of this. Anyway, Ollie, this might become a running, well, it's always been a running theme, to be honest, since we started this show back in late August 2020, last year. But protests, and this Tuesday, there were kind of more fears, I believe, that it might have been a big day of protest. By all accounts, not much happened. But is this kind of going to be the start now? Rainy season kicks off, and also that means protest season starts. What have we got to look forward to? What did happen on Tuesday, by the way?
Not very much. No. I mean, it's the usual kind of, you know, running scuffles between police and protesters, mainly focused around Portal de las Americas. I mean, public opinion seems to have switched massively here, that there's very much most of the discourse seems to be along the lines of, we're really sick of this now. Please, Claudia, step in and sort this out. So I wonder what will happen, you know, as the protests get bigger. They were always projected to get bigger kind of coming into October, November. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out with the electoral candidates. Rightly or wrongly, Gustavo Petro will be linked to anything that happens on the march. Whether or not that's fair is neither here nor there. He will be linked. How the other candidates play it is going to be interesting. I think, though, I wonder how much, if they can get public support again, or if that has been kind of, has passed its point, you know, in March, April. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Like you say, Brendan, it is baffling that marching season seems to always take place in rainy season, which just seems, you know, like a guaranteed way to get your numbers down. I've never quite understood why they've done that. If we're talking about numbers on Tuesday, a fairly large feminist turnout for legal, safe and free abortion. It's ridiculous that we're having this debate in 2021, but, you know, here we are. So come on, get a move on. And apart from that, you know, the other protests, we're talking about 11,000 people across Colombia estimated. I mean, this is what 0.02% of the population. This doesn't, at the moment, it doesn't look like it has public backing. That could all change. Let's not close the door on it right now. But if it doesn't pick up in numbers and fast, then you've got to wonder if they're really, acting in the public good here.
Yeah, well, you mentioned 11,000. I think there's probably more people already on the list running for Casa de Nariño for the presidency next year. We seem to have a plethora of candidates at this moment in time. Everyone's throwing their hat in the ring. I'm thinking of doing it myself. La Cancelleria might give me a visa on the strength of it. But anyway, I have to mention, though, protests, of course. Every time there is a protest, the ESMAD get mentioned, which is, of course, Colombia's version of a riot police. And a link to the United States here, everybody's favorite left-wing American politician, Alexandra Cortez, if we get her name right, AOC as she's known by her initials. What's she done?
Ocasio-Cortez. Well, she's the person who sponsored a bill, an amendment to a bill to tag along through through Congress, which blocks the US selling anti-personnel stuff to Colombia for use with ESMAD. I think they can still sell to regular police, but not if it'll turn up in ESMAD. It also stops the Defense Department putting money towards fumigation planes, but not the State Department or the other way around. I can't remember how it works.
Okay. I'm glad you said AOC. Yeah, thanks, Angela Ocasio-Cortez. Ollie did correct me. Angela, as always, quick in with the messages. But I'm glad you said AOC is the person, because, of course, as she likes to let people know, we can't use women and men anymore. It's a menstruating individual, which I guess she identifies as a menstruating individual. What are we? Ejaculation?
I'm pretty sure her Twitter puts her as she, her. So I doubt she would go down that line. But it's an interesting.
She has. Look, she has. Check it out. She has. Tax the rich. That's what I say. I'm gonna wear a T-shirt next week. Tax the rich. At least if it comes from me, it's genuine, not from somebody attending a Met Ball and all the hypocrisy that goes with that.
To be fair, she was given an invite. In fairness, I mean, she could have said no. She could have attended and blended into the background. I'm with her on that. But what I think is interesting about this move, Brendan, is that so often we see rich countries saying that it's all very terrible, this police repression, and we're not very impressed, and isn't Colombia naughty, and we really must have stern words from our ambassador and all this sort of thing. But it's rare that we see a big, powerful, rich country say, you know what, we're going to back this up with actions. And look, it might very well be, I'm sure the Colombian police force, the Colombian military will be straight on the line to China to say, hey, have you got any tear gas canisters and the like? Absolutely, that's going to be the real politic effect. But I think it doesn't undo everything the US has done in the past, but this is a good step in the right direction to say, you know what? If you're going to repress your people like that, we're not going to help you do it. So, fair play.
Okay. Yeah, I guess some people might say as well the United States might want to focus on their own policing issues inside as well. But
also,
two wrongs don't make a right. Yeah, we'll see how it plays out. I just think if it was anyone else but AOC doing it, we might take it more seriously. But there. Anyway. Moving on to money matters, I know you've got your investments in Bitcoin and all that, so you're not too concerned about this. I jest, of course. And you can see the book there in the background on Ollie's shelf. the beginner's guide to Bitcoin. No, but we've had reports and headlines of El Espectador, El Tiempo, and all the big media here advising those who can, I guess, so about 0.1% of the population, to invest in dollars, because the peso, the most devalued currency in the last year, apparently. On the planet.
Yeah, there are some caveats to this. Of course, it doesn't count the numerous currencies around the world that were already completely in the toilet. So, you know, we're thinking about bolivars and things like that. It's also fair to say that, I mean, I just don't get why this is happening now. I mean, I agree with you. I've seen lots of sudden talk about, you know, getting out of pesos, whether it's into digital currencies or whether it's into dollars. It seems like a bizarre moment to do it. Right now, your pesos are not buying you very much dollars. So in the future, you're going to have to buy those dollars back, unless you're planning to emigrate to the United States, which I guess is a different thing. But otherwise, you're going to have to buy those dollars back at some point, and you're going to receive less pesos for them. So it seems unusual, unless you think that the Colombian peso is in a death spiral, which, I mean, there's nothing to suggest that it should be. If anything, the Colombian peso is probably a little bit undervalued, according to most economic models. That's what the economics editor of the Bogotá Post says. Bearing that in mind, I mean, yeah, it just seems bizarre. The peso's been in a worse state already this year and come back. So, yeah, seems odd, especially when the US government faces the very real possibility of absolute financial meltdown. I mean, that's genuinely on the cards with what Biden is currently failing to get through Congress. Admittedly, it's a long shot, but it's on the table. And, yeah, just a little bit bizarre. I think if you can wait as long as the next election, you're going to see the peso in a different light. It's not going to be great if Petro wins, but to be honest, he's unlikely to win. So, yeah, I wouldn't worry all that much. And anyway, yeah, a weak peso's not a bad thing for an exporting country.
Yeah, the other side of it as well is, like, for the ordinary Joe or Jose soap here, that Jose Jalón, if I put it that way. But it's no big deal either. Like, I'm not seeing it, you know, translating into higher costs for me or anything on a daily basis, and I pretty much follow what most people in the barrio would be buying on a daily basis. Yeah, like, just the problem for me is that if I have to leave this country in December or whatever and go back to Europe, and the peso is very weak against the euro, then, you know, maybe 2 years ago I actually had more money because it was a bit stronger or whatever. But if you're staying in the country and you're not buying cars, and, yeah, exactly, then it's not really a massive issue for the people on the ground. So obviously these stories are, as I said, aimed at people, a certain class of people, put it that way.
Who, to be fair, all work in the media, you know, influential positions, and all people who work in the media and sort of influential positions, they're all from this background, all prominent academics and politicians and everything. They all do regularly have imported stuff, go on holiday, etc. So it affects them, so they talk about it a lot. But as you say, is it a problem for most people in Colombia? Absolutely not. In fact, it's a benefit in many ways.
Yeah, I actually don't recall too many people in Genisano sitting down saying, God, Brendan, this is terrible. The price of the dollar these days and the peso in comparison, blah, blah, blah. No, that wasn't happening. Anyway, guys, in about 2 or 3 minutes, we're going to be talking about the reasons why we've fallen in love with Colombia. If not exactly the country, but its people, the landscape, blah, blah, blah. All that kind of stuff, because we're finishing off this month of amor, amistad, focusing on what is wonderful and great about Colombia that brought us here, and we want to hear why you are here. Or if you're Colombian, what are you most proud of, I guess, as well? about your country. But before we do that, James watch, this might be the last time we'll mention him. He'll become irrelevant, perhaps. But he's left Liverpool, the cold of Liverpool, to head off to Qatar to join Al Rayyan, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. What a move. Al Rayyan, of course, I'd have them down. I'd put a sneaky 20,000 pesos that they'll be the World Club Champions 2022, renowned club that they are. Yeah, it seems a little bit of a fall from whatever kind of grace Mr. Rodriguez had, Ollie, isn't it?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's just a very sad story. But to be honest, the thing is, does James care fundamentally? Is part of the question here. And I wonder if he does, to be honest. I mean, he's earned an absolute stack load of money. He's more or less always turned up for his country until very recently. I doubt he cares all that much. I think he's enjoyed earning a lot of money, having a very privileged lifestyle, and so, fair play to him. It's just a little bit disappointing, I think, for supporters of various clubs that he didn't fill the potential that he, obviously had at 2014.
Yeah, well, at least he can still wear those sunglasses. I saw on his Facebook page, I think it was yesterday, just like a thumbs up, and goes, yeah, great to have the sunnies out from, what would it be, Ray Beam, I guess, or whatever sponsorship deal he has, that he always has these particular sunglasses on. So he's got all his marketing deals wrapped up, and he can kick the ball around there in Qatar. And as we joked, there's a chance, although it may not be, it might be long odds, because he may not stay terribly long in Qatar, but he might be in Qatar for 2022, one way or the other, with La Selección. But you did make the point that, if he can get his act together, he has performed better for his country than he has for any club, really. That he can put it together for that time when he's called into international duty. So that, Ronaldo Rueda could do well to bring him back into the fold. He hasn't been called up for this particular international window. This day next week, Colombia playing Uruguay, by the way. But will we see him back in the Colombian shirt? If you're a betting man, would you say yes?
I have to wonder if Rueda would be thinking, you know what, bring him in. Colombia have looked a little bit lethargic in a couple of games. You'd have to be wondering, look, bring him in. He will play amazingly for a month and then fade into obscurity. But to win a World Cup or to go far in a World Cup, you only need a player to play well 6 games. So,
Yeah. Mentioning a World Cup, Ollie, shout out to the Colombian women's volleyball team, qualified for the first time ever for the Women's World Cup, which takes place in Europe next year, I think next September. So they've qualified for the first time. They've got a Brazilian renowned volleyball coach. Not that I know an awful lot about volleyball, but I will make it my business to watch the Colombian volleyball team play from here on out and follow their exploits as they prepare. I look at it. I will go out of my way. These are the things one must do for one's adopted country. Anyway, best of luck to them at that World Cup. Oliver, right, we're on to our meaty big topic today, as we say, to finish off this month of amor, amistad, love and friendship. And I remember I interviewed the British historian, Colombianized British historian Malcolm Dees, and one of the kind of first questions I asked him in the interview was, what brought you to Colombia? Why this love for Colombia? And he answered saying, well, one doesn't love countries, one loves dogs and kittens and things like that. And at the time I kind of thought, oh, okay, fair enough. But when I think about it, Ollie, there are things about this country I do love, as in its landscape and nature and all that kind of stuff. But more on that in a second. But what did bring Ollie Pritchard to Colombia, or was it just a complete random thing that has you now sitting in Bogotá?
It's funny you should say that, because I can't quite because of the weather and the darkness. But tomorrow morning, sitting here for work, I can see just there over the back of my computer, exactly why I wanted to come to Bogotá, and that's to live in the Andes. You know, it always seemed like a really interesting and exotic region. I guess I'd always had stories of the Andes when I was young and growing up, and I'd always wanted to be in them. And after asking around for a few people, and you know, heard kind of weird things about quite a few Latin American countries, and people kind of said, well, the likes of Peru and Bolivia, they're very touristy usually, and you know, it's a very weird sort of vibe. And everyone said, well, you know, Colombia is a really interesting place. It's a bit different. Not so many people go there. The people that do go there are a bit weird. And I thought, yep, sounds perfect. And it all sort of worked out rather well.
Did you go traveling around South America though, or like it was kind of?
No, pretty much straight to Colombia. It's interesting what you say, Brendan, about loving dogs and cats. I can't make the dog come, but kittens are very lovable. There she is.
Well, she's not much of a kitten right now. She's a cat. Old. What?
Oh, well.
Adult.
She's
an adult, anyway. Yeah, okay, yeah. Well, certainly of kitten-bearing age, yes?
Yeah, if she wasn't sterilised, yeah.
Yeah, I figured she would be sterilised. Yeah, so anyway, so you did, like, it was very much in your plans to come here, and you knew...
Yeah, very much, yeah. And I figured, you know, it wouldn't be too hard to get an English teaching job, I didn't think, and it wasn't. You know, so yeah, it was. It all worked out rather nicely.
Yeah, because like on the complete flip side, then for me, it wasn't planned whatsoever. I first travelled to South America as a backpacker and landed in Rio de Janeiro, and the initial plan was Brazil, briefly Argentina, Bolivia, Peru, Chile, and then on to New Zealand, Australia. And I was only meant to have like 2 months or something in the southern part, we'll say, of South America. But as I traveled around, particularly once I got to Bolivia and Peru, I met a lot of people who had come down from Central and the north of South America and passed through Colombia. And this is 2008, late 2008, beginning of 2009. And they were all saying that, you know, Colombia is amazing. It doesn't get too many tourists. Definitely check it out if you have the time. So, you know, I was a rookie backpacker at the time. I had done everything through trail finders. So I contacted trail finders then, and I, you know, asked them how much would it cost to put back my flight from Santiago de Chile to, well, initially to Sydney as it was, but it was via Auckland. I ended up staying in New Zealand for a little bit, but it didn't cost that much. So I thought, okay, look, I'm here. I'll probably never come back to this continent, because the idea was to go to Australia and work. And I changed the route. So after doing the Inca Trail in Cusco, I went north rather than going south to Chile, and came up to Ecuador and into Colombia. But I knew next to nothing about the country. I think I've said this in previous shows for any regular viewers, and Angela is certainly a regular viewer, so she's probably going to be repeating himself here. But like, I probably wouldn't have even known if somebody said, what's the capital of Colombia? I'd be scratching my head. I didn't really know much about it at all. But when I came, and the first stop was Popayán, because I came in from Ecuador and traveled through, and then just somebody had put Popayán in my head. Again, as I said, knew absolutely nothing. So this was early February 2009. Now, an important point to note, it was only in 2008, Ollie, that Irish people were once again allowed into Colombia without having to pre-apply for a tourist visa, because of the infamous Colombian 3, when Uribe was president, and these Northern Irish men traveling on Irish men traveling anyway on Irish passports were bird watching in the jungle here. Chris Bell is listening, well before his time. But yeah, so that soured diplomatic relations. So Irish people actually couldn't get in. So I just kind of arrived just as it was now easy or the same for Irish people as it was for other European passport holders to get into Colombia. So that obviously made it a little bit easier. But that wasn't even part of my thoughts of not going to go to Colombia. It just wasn't part of my plans. But yeah, like that, came in. Papa Jan again had an interesting time. It's kind of friendly people. And I remember actually being in Papa Jan and just wandering around. I haven't been back to that city since, would you believe? But there was a group of school kids on a day out or whatever, and I saw they were all kind of like giggling at each other and stuff, and they came over to me like, "Can we take a photo of you? Because you look kind of strange and weird and different." It's like, okay, yeah, that's fine. You can take a photo. So, I don't recall that happening in the other, as you mentioned, kind of more touristy Peru, Bolivia, Argentina, because they were more kind of au fait and blasé about tourists because there were so many of them. Whereas there was still that like, oh, this is a different. It's weird to see tourists traveling around. And then I ramped through this, but in Bogotá, then my first night, which happened to be my 24th birthday, the 14th of February, and went to some club in Zonate. I didn't know any better, staying in the Cranky Croc hostel in La Candelaria with an Englishman and a Kiwi. And met these three Santanderiana girls, Bumangueses, who became good friends of mine. And it was really from that, I continued on my travels and then eventually went along my way and got to Australia. Didn't end up working there as it turned out, because I just didn't feel like it. But these friends that I made, these Santanderianas, right, they remain good friends. And after a couple of years back in Ireland, then the kind of call to come back and to kind of give it, I just said I'll give it a go. Now, I did actually go to Chile first, just kind of give South America a go. But like that, it was harder to get work. I was doing some voluntary media work in Santiago de Chile, but decided to come back to Bogotá because of those friends. And that was late 2011, so coming up to the 10th anniversary in November. And here I still am, and yet again facing into another existential crisis about will I stay or go as the 27th of November approaches and the end of my current visa. So yeah, it was just very much random, and maybe that kind of sums up exactly my stay here over the last 10 years. It's all been quite random, but also surreal. And I think it's that surrealness that kind of keeps me here too. Like in many ways, I kind of go, I hear, listen, talk to some of my friends back home, and kind of rat race livelihood, or that kind of more settled down, what you're expected to do as a guy in your mid-30s in a rich world nation or a high-income nation. And here, yeah, I'm kind of still, I don't know how you want to put it, but like, yeah, kind of doing my own thing. But it's, yeah, that's kind of been my Colombian love affair, and why I ended up here anyway in the first place, and why I'm still here. Well, there's other reasons to that. I mean, have you ever thought that your time is up here, or do you now think that Colombia is going to be your home for the foreseeable future?
Well, I mean, I've literally put down roots. I've bought an apartment. I've started remodeling it to, the way I want it to look, which is not necessarily the same as what will give it a good resale value. Absolutely. I've put down a marker of wanting to stay. I don't see myself going anywhere. I think. And actually, I'd change it slightly, Brendan. I'd say very much Colombia is my bit on the side. Bogotá is my long-term primary commitment. Colombia is somebody I have a fling with every now and again for a couple of weeks. And Bogotá and Colombia are two very different beasts. I think Colombia very much is a case of falling in lust, but I'd struggle to live anywhere outside of Bogota.
I think I could picture Ollie Pritchard strolling along the beaches of Cartagena in his shorts and a tank top, and enjoying the the hospitality of the costeños up there, the Cartageneros.
I could maybe do Santa Marta, and I could probably do Santa Marta in the future. But at the moment, I mean, conservatism would just strangle me, I think, in most places. I've considered Medellin a few times in the 9.5 years that I've been here. But it's always been the same thing. You know, you go to Medellin and it's a great place to be for a couple of weeks, as long as you don't look at it too hard. When you start looking at it too hard, you kind of go, yeah, I don't really like what I see. So yeah, very much in that respect, I think Bogota is the place I want to be long term. And that's why I have property here. That's why I have dogs, cat.
But expand on that though. Why? Like, this is the perennial question, Bogota, Medellin, and we've talked about this before in terms of the second city syndrome with Medellin. But what specifically do you dislike about Medellin?
I don't like the sort of hyper capitalist kind of very Americanized culture that you have in. So Medellin's a city where still not that many people drive compared to a high income country, but it is absolutely built around cars. I mean, for all they go on about the metro, it's very much a city built around cars. There are parts of the city that are useful to get in and out of via metro, but a lot of it, it's not really. And actually the big famous example, which again doesn't bother me because I have not very much interest in going there, but Poblado is not accessible from the metro. And, you know, that's one of your big things that you kind of go, that seems like a bit of a glaring error. But again, I always find myself walking around Medellin and thinking there's a massive open space here where, you know, it's just a huge road and the side of the road is just, you know, it's the side of buildings, but there's not really a sort of a storefront and an entrance. And it's just extreme. I find it extremely frustrating in that way that you find yourself having to sort of jump from area to area. I also really don't like the extreme conservatism that you often get in Medellin. So if you think about somewhere like Chapiguay, I might not be a gay man, but I like the fact that I live in a city where there is a gay district. Not only is there a gay district, it's big. You know, it's one of the biggest in Latin America. It's got a club which frankly rivals most clubs anywhere in the world for sheer size. And I like that. I like being, part of that. I like the fact that there's all kinds of flourishing subcultures, which you, again, don't really take off in Medellin often because it's just too small to sustain them. So I definitely don't think Bogota is perfect, and I don't think Medellin's completely terrible, but those are the reasons why I'd struggle to live there as opposed to visit.
Okay. By the way, just to pick up on a point, you said Poblado is not accessible from the metro. It's a 15-minute walk. It's not that bad.
Oh, in metro terms, that's completely off. I mean, the whole point about metro systems is that you're meant to have a station, you know, pretty much, 5 minutes to a metro station should be your tops. I'd also say as well, it's a fair hike going up the hill, and it's irritating at best, if not downright.
But
inconvenient.
Is that stop called Poblado, though? Am I correct? I think it is. That actual stop, the one that's closest to Poblado, is called Poblado. I think. Can't remember now. I was there, well, recently. Yeah, like I've written.
Well, to be fair, Brendan, London Luton Airport exists. So, and that's got to be, 40 miles out of London. So, it wouldn't be the first time that we've seen a cheeky name there.
Yeah, the Ryanair style of naming airports that are nowhere near the cities that they fly to. Indeed, we've all experienced that. But yeah, it's interesting you should say that. But of course, you have, as you say, your roots and everything. So if we're kind of this analogy of why we're in love with Colombia, or we're still here, or maintaining the relationship. In many ways, it could be said, and especially when it has to come to visa renewal time for me, that this is unrequited love. I've been 10 years now, and I'm now further away from residency, and indeed the current visa I have doesn't even work towards residency, so I'm not even on the path to residency. But every time I feel like I'm coming towards the end, and once again, those thoughts are running through my mind, something happens to keep me here. And as I wrote in a blog story a couple of weeks ago when I was talking about the demise and the sad end of Panaderia Vicky, it's dawned on me really that I have spent the majority of my adult life now in Colombia. I'm 36 years of age, and I was 26 when I came back here after backpacking here and then decided to give it a go. So, if you're an adult at 18, that was 8 years in Ireland, about almost a year traveling between 24 and 25 years of age, or 23 and a half, 24 and a half, whatever. So yeah, I've spent the majority of my adult life here. So now Colombia's almost become the norm, for better or for worse. So the thoughts of going back to a high-income nation in Europe, which is the most likely kind of default option for me, it's God, I don't know, can I do that? We talked about in a previous show about Bogotá kind of being the 90s, as in what the 90s were for us in our countries, and particularly maybe for you in the UK, and that Bogotá holds on to some of those things where cash is king, and the kind of the lifestyle in many ways, and how each barrio has its kind of independence, and you can get everything, and in many ways it's Bogotá is just a city of independent pueblos, little towns, and yeah, there's so much to that I like. I like the idea that I won't really need to buy a car in this country. I go back to Ireland, even though it's small and 20 times smaller than Colombia, you're kind of lost without a car.
See what happens with the SOAT changes. But yeah, you're right. And I often wonder, actually, that Colombia has some advantages that they kind of don't always realize are advantages, I think. And, public transport's a really good example of that. There are so many places in the United Kingdom that are just without public transport. And, the idea has been that you have to, you have to have your private car because everybody's got a private car. Why wouldn't you? And it's only relatively, relatively underprivileged people that don't have cars, or very elderly people, and kind of, we're able to ignore them. They're just invisibilized in decision-making processes. But I think what's really interesting is that, we've seen this fuel crisis, which apparently isn't a crisis. According to the ministers, it's not a crisis, don't worry. Everybody's queuing up to get petrol and there's no petrol. But that doesn't mean there isn't any petrol because it doesn't, all right? Anyway, but we're seeing in this that, look, the future's coming, Brendan, and we know in the future we're all going to have to use a great deal less petroleum. Which is probably going to mean more public transport. And actually, a place like Colombia is pretty well set up to deal with that. There's already existing public transport. It's a lot easier to stop people getting cars than to take their cars away from them once they have them. And of course, car ownership here is nothing like what it would be in Ireland or the United States or England. So, I do worry that we're going to lose some of those things in the future. And I wonder then if my relationship with Colombia will be as solid as it is now.
Yeah, but as you say, like it's well set up. The country's in many ways like ahead of the game, ahead of the curve there. Because
Oh, absolutely. Did you see that report? A couple of days ago, they were kind of moaning about the making Bogota a 30-minute city. And I was thinking, a 30-minute city? Like the original proposal was 15 minutes. And they were saying, oh, it's only going to be possible if we do this, that, and the other. And I thought to myself, well, Bogota's a hell of a lot closer to being a 30-minute city than anywhere I can think of in the UK. Absolutely, without a shadow of doubt. With one not even glaring, but one exception. You take work out of the proposal. If you want people to travel to work also in 30 minutes, frankly, that's a challenge everywhere in the world because of the way distribution works. And Colombia's certainly no different in that respect. But in terms of amenities, you'd have to go some in Colombia to be more than in Bogota to be more than 30 minutes away from a wide range of amenities.
Yeah, exactly. And we've talked about this in previous episodes. That I don't need to go into the city center. Like tomorrow, I may have to go down to Chapinero, and like to me, God, it's like, oh God, I have to go all that way. It's like for months I haven't really had the need to venture that far for pretty much anything. There might, like, obviously, as a very kind of independent freelance guy here, I don't need to be going and like I'm not a house owner, all that kind of stuff. There might be tax things or government buildings that you have to go to on a more regular basis.
Yeah. No one's recommending that the DIAN set up tiny little satellite offices all around. That would obviously be insane. But in terms of sort of like reasonable, not every tiny community can have their own swimming pool. But yeah, in terms of everything else, you'd have to wonder, wouldn't you? How much more integrated could it be? And I think people sometimes here don't realize what it's like in other countries. In much of England, as we've seen this week, there are people who literally can't walk to their shops. It's an hour's walk to the nearest shop and walk back, which wasn't a problem when it was a 15-minute drive. But once you take petrol out of the equation, everything changes.
Yeah. But again, it's like how people become reliant though on their cars, because
absolutely, yeah,
like where I come from in the west of Ireland, in the countryside, a little village, and to our nearest town, so to the nearest supermarket, it's like 5 kilometers. Now I love to walk. But
a family can't walk that and walk back.
I know. Okay, and I know I'm talking like a single man, but even when I'm in Ireland kind of going, oh, I'm going to walk into town, and people look at me as if I've got 2 heads. They kind of think, oh, God, this man's gone crazy since he's been living in South America. So like, it's only 5 kilometers. Yeah, I understand with young children and all that kind of stuff, it's a completely different kettle of fish. But like other people who could do it and can do it, they don't want to do it. Or they've just, as I said, become so reliant on their cars. And all that may indeed change, let's see great resets and Green New Deals and all that kind of stuff where we're going to be in the future. But anyway, Ollie, I think, we could go on and on, but we are coming near our hour mark here, and I think our producer is going to be getting on the buzzer here for us to shut up shop for the night. But Ollie, almost here 10 years, I'm same as that. Will Ollie Pritchard still be in Bogota in 2031?
Too far in advance, couldn't tell you. As far as I can see, yes, but so much could change between then and now. So I don't think it's much point putting too much.
Yeah, I should have planned my closing question better, because I feel like that ridiculous interview question they got. Where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? So I'm not a clairvoyant. I have no idea.
I don't know. I could get run over by a bus tomorrow and end up being paraplegic. Yeah, it's so hard to predict the future, I think, for anybody.
Yeah, exactly. And anyway, certainly, I don't even know where I'm going to be next month. Never mind in 10 years' time. So, Let's see. Ollie, great to be back. We will be back next week. We'll probably be doing it with umbrellas and everything on here because I'm kind of always suspicious when I'm on the top floor of a building that is the roof good enough to take the rainy season.
Well, welcome to my house.
Yeah, exactly. Anything could go wrong. Soft Morrow, if you're listening, that is our lot for Bogotá Nights tonight. You know it's your own, of course. We'll know if Colombia have got points in Montevideo as they play Uruguay. We should have a result by the time we're on the show next week. So next week, guys. Ciao, ciao. Bye-bye.